Hey, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Are you with me? I'm revising quickly. Please stop me if you want me to repeat something. Okay?
Okay.
1 minute. Yes, we were talking about the tunica media. This is the middle layer made up of smooth muscles and elastic fibers. You will memorize this later. But while you're listening to me, make sure you understand what I'm saying. Smooth muscles help the blood vessels contract and relax, so help in vasodilatation and vasoconstriction. Elastic fibers help the blood vessels stretch and recoil so that they don't burst under high pressure. Clear?
Clear.
Tunica externa, or the last layer, also contains elastic fibers, but mainly collagen. Collagen gives any blood vessel support and strength, makes it strong, and helps it bind with the surrounding tissue. Veins have lots of collagen. Arteries have lots of elastic fibers. Arteries are usually much thicker, but they have a much smaller lumen because they carry blood at high pressure. Arteries closer to the heart are more elastic. Arteries away from the heart are more muscular. More elastic means they have more elastic tissue. More muscular means they have more smooth muscle. Anything not clear?
No, it's clear, miss.
Okay. Capillaries, as you can see, they're 1 cell thick. They're around 5 to 10 micrometers in diameter. They only allow a single layer of red blood cells to pass through them. As you can see, they're porous to help in diffusion. They have porous administration. Plasma is forced out. If there is infection, white blood cells will be pushed out, etc., etc. This is a very important diagram. And always, while you're studying, you have to have a pencil and blank paper next to you because you will draw. You will draw a lot of things. You will draw while you are studying for paper 2, and you will draw while you're studying for paper 3, because they can get you this part under a microscope and they can ask you to draw a plan diagram. A plan diagram is very easy. You will draw the tissue. So you will draw the 3 different layers with the correct proportions. If this is thickest in the picture, then you will draw a diagram showing that this layer is the thickest. You will draw something like this with a sharp, clear pencil. No shading, no coloring. This is the endothelial layer. This is the tunica media. You will not draw any individual cells, just the tissue. My pen is not working as usual. And then you will draw the last layer. So you will be given a mark on the proportions, showing them that the middle layer is the thickest. And you will label. And you will label with no arrows, so just with a straight line using a ruler. Endothelium, tunica media, tunica intima. And the wide lumen here is because of the vein. Now, the blood, composition of blood. Blood is solid part, liquid part. Solid part is made up of white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. Let's focus on the white blood cells. White blood cells A, we'll study it in detail in the next lesson. White blood cells are either lymphocytes or phagocytes. Phagocytes, they look like this. Lymphocytes look like this. You have to know how to identify them. The phagocytes, as you can see, they're much bigger, and they're divided into the neutrophil and the monocyte. The neutrophil has the lobe nucleus, as you can see, and a granular cytoplasm, and the monocyte has a horseshoe-shaped kidney. So if you're given diagrams, you can identify them. The lymphocyte that produces specific antibodies, they have a large central nucleus. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now, how is oxygen transported in the body, and how is CO2 transported in the body? Oxygen, when we inhale it, it is either transported in the red blood cells or transported in the plasma. In the plasma, it is simply dissolved in water and taken to the tissues. In the red blood cells, it binds with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin bounded to oxygen, either O2 or O8, they're both correct. Oxyhemoglobin. Easy, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Carbon dioxide, how is it transported? Carbon dioxide is the result of respiration, so the tissues will release carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide, either it is also carried by the plasma or carried by the red blood cells. Mainly it is carried by the red blood cells. In the red blood cell, it will either bind with the hemoglobin of the red blood cell to form carbaminohemoglobin, and this will eventually end in the lungs. All this ends in the lungs because the CO2 is a waste product that needs to be exhaled. So the carbaminohemoglobin will carry the carbon dioxide to the lungs and exhale the CO2. If the carbon dioxide is in the cytoplasm of the red blood cells, it will dissociate or react with water. This is the majority of the CO2. It dissolves in the water inside the red blood cell, and it will react with the water, and you have to memorize this equation. Carbon dioxide plus CO2 in the presence of the carbonic anhydrase enzyme will give you an acid called carbonic acid. This carbonic acid, it can dissociate, and sometimes it doesn't. If it dissociates, it will give you hydrogen ions and hydrogen carbonate ions. Okay, Aya?
Okay.
Those three are waste products. They eventually have to end in the lungs. If the carbonic acid does not dissociate and it dissolves in water, it will be carried by the plasma and it will go to the lungs. At the lungs, it will break down into water and CO2, and both of these two will be exhaled. Okay?
Okay.
If it dissociates and it gives you hydrogen ions and hydrogen carbonate ions, this hydrogen ion is a big problem because if it remains in the blood, it will make the blood pH acidic. So the hydrogen ion will bind with hemoglobin to give you hemoglobinic acid. And this is what makes the oxygen dissociation curve shift to the right, because the hemoglobin will have a higher affinity to the hydrogen ions, will leave the oxygen and will have a higher affinity to the hemoglobin ions. So the curve will shift to the right because the hemoglobin affinity to oxygen is reduced. Now, do you relate the two together? Clear, Aya?
Yes.
Okay, so the hydrogen will bind with the hemoglobin, give you hemoglobinic acid. Again, it will go to the lungs. At the lungs, it will dissociate. The hemoglobin will split from the hydrogen ion. The hydrogen ion will bind with the hydrogen carbonate, give you carbonic acid that will dissociate into CO2 and water, and it will be exhaled. Now, what is the fate of the hydrogen carbonate ion? The hydrogen carbonate ion moves out of the cell with the help of a transport protein. And in order to prevent the electric disturbance of the cell, what will come in instead? Chlorine. And the movement of chlorine inside the cell is called the chloride shift. Okay?
Okay.
Nice picture here that I discovered. I'll put it here. Where is it? I added it to the notes because I liked it. Yeah. Look here, A. This is a very nice picture that shows you what is happening inside the red blood cell. Here is the hydrogen carbonate acid. This is the CO2 plus the water. In the presence of the carbonic dehydrates will give you carbonic acid. This carbonic acid will dissociate into hydrogen ions and hydrogen carbonate ions. We're here. Hydrogen carbonate ions move out. And what moves in instead? The chloride ions to prevent the electric disturbance of the cell. This is called the chloride shift. Okay? Okay, Aya?
Okay.
Now, this is the hydrogen ion. It will bind with the hemoglobin to give you hemoglobinic acid. This hemoglobinic acid will be carried to the lungs. And this hydrogen carbonate will also go to the lungs. At the lungs, they will meet and everything is reversed. To give you they will meet and combine to form the carbonic acid that will dissociate to give you CO2 and water, and these two will be exhaled. So this part causes a lot of confusion. Doctor, we can't understand. Doctor, we cannot memorize. It's very easy. This is the key equation. Memorize this equation because this is what happens to the CO2 in your body. The CO2 reacts with water to give you carbonic acid. that will dissociate to give you hydrogen ions and hydrogen carbonate ions, all those three are waste products. They have to get rid of. Ask yourself, how will I get rid of this? How will I get rid of this? How will I get rid of this if it doesn't dissociate? Clear? And it will be finished. Okay, Aya?
Okay.
Now, this is what we took yesterday. Today, we revised the oxygen dissociation curve. If you have any questions, we studied it. We will read it either from the left to the right, or from the right to the left, or we will divide it in half. Read this part on its own. This is what is happening at the lungs, and read this part on its own. And the final conclusion, that at high partial pressure of oxygen, there is high affinity. And at low partial pressure of oxygen, there is low affinity of hemoglobin to oxygen. Okay, and this curve can shift in certain situations when the affinity of hemoglobin is affected. When there is too much CO2, the hemoglobin will bind with the hydrogen ions and leave the oxygen. So we don't affect the acidity of the blood, and the affinity will decrease. So this will move down. So in adults, usually this curve moves down while we're exercising, and then it goes back to its original place while we are resting. In the fetus, because they naturally have high affinity to hemoglobin, the curve moves up. So in a fetus, the curve is red. When they grow up and they become adults, the curve moves down. Because the fetal hemoglobin has naturally high affinity to oxygen, because they have lots of growing to do, and they are not moving inside the mother's womb as much. They're not respiring as much as we are. We are more active. Is this clear?
Yes.
Is the cardiac cycle clear?
Yes.
Any questions? This graph, is it clear?
Yes, miss.
Okay, Aya, I did some changes to the notes in this lesson. I added more information. They're not more information. I just wrote it in an easier way. I try to always update the notes to make it easy and simple for students to study. Remind me to send you the new version for this lesson. Okay? It's very similar to have, but maybe I'm just more descriptive with more pictures. I always do updates at the end or before the year starts. Okay, Aya?
Okay.
Have immunity. Immunity, I'll try to finish it in one session. It's also long. If not, I'll finish it in a maximum of 2. And then infection in one session. Respiration is very, very easy. I'll leave it till the very end. It's nearly the same what you took last year. So you have 4 sessions, hopefully, and we'll be done with the syllabus. Okay, Aya?
Okay.
Now, Aya, lots of studying, my dear, and lots of solving.
Okay, miss.
Good girl. See you. Bye.
See you, miss. Bye.